Hey everyone, Thunderbro here with another Gintama video. Today I want to try and break down the political intricacies of Japan within Gintama, since it's actually really interesting, and just like the sci-fi element, it's a very underrated aspect of Gintama. But this aspect of the show is actually quite detailed. So we can assume with a good amount of certainty that the history of the world in Gintama as we know it progressed the same as ours until approximately the 1840s to 60s. We can assume this because of the characters we know were around when the Yamato arrived, such as Yoshida Shoyo, based on the real-life Yoshida Shoin, Kotaro Katsura, based on the real-life Kogoro Katsura, Shinsuke Takasugi, based on the real-life Shinsaku Takasugi, and Tatsuma Sakamoto, based on the real-life Ryoma Sakamoto, as well as Toshiro Hijigata, based on the real-life Shinsengumi member Toshizo Hijigata. The real-life inspiration for all these characters lived during the mid to late 1800s during a tumultuous and transformative era of Japanese history, in which Japan was forcibly opened up by the West and made to agree to unfair treaties, and the people of the country fought over the direction of the nation. So much like the Western world forcing Japan to open up, in the Gintama universe it was a coalition of aliens, instead, called the Tendosho, presumably doing so for the whole planet. They ended up destroying part of Edo Tower with a show of force with their superior weapons. The 12th Tokugawa shogun collapsed from anxiety over the issue, and Sarasara took power. Seeing the hopelessness of their situation, as well as seeing a possibility to consolidate his own rule, he submitted to the Yamato. Several disgruntled samurai, nobles, and citizens refused to accept Japan's submission and declared war on the pro-Tendosho Bakufu. So Japan was split in 10 years of bloody war between nationalist rebels called the Joishishi and the imperial loyalists in the Bakufu with their Tendosho allies. Notable figures on the Joi side were Jirocho, Saigo, as well as Yoshida Shoyo and his three most prominent students, Gintoki Katsura and Takasugi, as well as Sakamoto, who provided a lot of financial support. Formidable opponents of theirs included Oboro of the Naraku and Bato. Despite the best efforts of the Joishishi in being a lot more formidable than the Yamato would have thought, the superior weaponry of the Yamato won out, and their victory gave them an excuse to be even more controlling over Japan. Shoyo was executed, his students separated, and Jirocho and Saigo had left the war before it ended. Some groups obeyed the Tendosho to retain their samurai rights and possibly change the system from within. The Shinsengumi are a combination of both of these factors, as well as a commitment to the shogun. And they were formed of several country samurai after the war in order to protect the shogun and other members of the court. Later, a similar organization consisting mostly of upper-class officers was formed, named the Minmawarigumi, led by Sasaki Isaburo. Over time, the Shinsengumi leaned towards the Tokugawa, and the Minmawarigumi towards the Hitotsubashi. Sakata Gintoki, one of the primary players in the Joi War, went to Kabukicho and started a business called the Yorozuya, doing various jobs for money, ranging from construction to mercenaryism. They ended up forging ties with infamous Kabukicho diva, Otose, as well as a local dojo formerly ran by Shimura Ken and inherited by his children. Even after the Bakufu's victory, feuds over the shogun position raged between the Hitotsubashi, who had lost political and social standing after losing a major battle during the war, and the Tokugawa. It's implied that this was an ongoing conflict before Yamato contact, and the Yamato just kinda ran into it. But on the subject of Tendosho control, it seems Sarasara was more pro-Tendosho, and the Hitotsubashi led by Nari wanted Japan to be independent. Their families inherited the conflict after Nari died and Sarasara abdicated. Nari's son, Nobunobu, fought a bloody struggle against Shige, the nephew of Sarasara, who was mostly a puppet for Sarasara who still worked behind the scenes, as Nobunobu continued the succession struggle for the seat of shogun and control of the nation. Shige was actually the more lenient and compassionate leader who sought to bring positive change from within as he began to befriend and relate to commoners, unbeknownst to Sarasara and the Tendosho who tried to control him, while Nobunobu was actually a lot more ruthless as he slaughtered his way to power. Rebellions also didn't stop when the war ended, however. Remnants of the Joishishi still remained throughout the country, and Takasugi and Katsura continued to rebel against the Tendosho even after the war ended. They were not a united front either. The two most prominent Joi groups are Takasugi's Kiheitai and Katsura's Joishishi. The Kiheitai are extreme and commit acts of terrorism. They're willing to burn down Japan itself if it means driving out the Tendosho. Eventually, they forged a deal with the notorious Harusame space pirates, but the Harusame actually saw Takasugi as a threat and attempted to purge the Kiheitai. But Takasugi had formed a secret deal with the leader of the Harusame's 7th Division, Kamui, and both emerged more powerful than ever. Katsura's Joishishi are more moderate and not as destructive or intolerant as the Kiheitai. This is shown through Katsura's befriending of Elizabeth and his respect for Kagura. Katsura's faction only wants the end of Tendosho control, not the expulsion of all Yamato. Since they shared enemies in the Tokugawa dynasty, Nobunobu Hitotsubashi allied with the Kiheitai and the Harusame for one final push to dismantle the Tokugawas, assassinating Sarasara while he was in captivity, after an attack on his palace. Nobunobu struck a deal with Ikeda Yaemon of the powerful Yaemon executioner's family and managed to kill many of the Joi who defeated the Hitotsubashi in the war, but ended up being betrayed and forced to execute Yaemon. But his deal with the Kiheitai and the Harusame 7th Division remained, and they went after Shige on his way to Kyo, while the Shinsengumi, the Yorozuya, and Oniwaban fought on the side of Shige in large-scale battles, in which the Hitotsubashi was not successful in killing Shige, but managed to force Shige to flee Edo and lose his position as shogun. He then planned to go to Kyo to ask for the emperor's help in his own rebellion to take back his shogunate. The former puppet shogun now became an enemy of the state. So it seems that the Yamato play the two sides off of each other to maintain control, as their grip seemed to be slipping with Shige becoming disillusioned and the Hitotsubashi faction closing in on them, especially after managing to get Sadasada killed. They offered a deal to Nobunobu, and Nobunobu accepted that deal and betrayed the Kiheitai to become shogun, which eventually led to a role reversal with Shige's rebellion fighting Nobunobu's new Bakufu, even though Shige didn't live to see the rebellion, since he was assassinated 3 months after being forced to flee. Despite the Harusame being partly operated by the Tendosho, since Shige had been diverting from the plans of the Tendosho for quite some time, they seemed to see Shige's transport to Kyo as an ideal time to get rid of him, so they allowed the 7th Division to join the Kiheitai in the attack. When Nobunobu took power, the Shinsengumi was disbanded, and he had Matsudaira Katakuriko, the director of the Shinsengumi, and the Shinsengumi's commander, Isao Kondo, arrested, and sent to prison on Kokujo Island, with the Mimmo Arigumi becoming the prime law enforcers in Edo. Kotaro Katsura was also imprisoned for an attempted assassination on Nobunobu at Club Smile. Since Shige's rebellion aligned with their own, the Joishishi, led temporarily by Elizabeth in Katsura's absence, allied themselves with the Shinsengumi, who were still loyal to the Tokugawa, or rather Shige, and participated in a joint attack on Kokujo Island to free their respective leaders, bringing along the Yorozuya as well, with the Mimmo Arigumi and the Naraku waiting to meet them. Brief clashes between the Shinsengumi Joishishi alliance and the Mimmo Arigumi and the Naraku ensued, before Isaburo gave orders to stop fighting the Shinsengumi and turn their swords on the Naraku. After fending off the Naraku, the 3 leaders escaped safely off the island, but Isaburo died in battle. Both the Shinsengumi and Mimmo Arigumi were disbanded afterwards. However, in pursuit of Shige's rebels, Nobunobu and a lot of his forces were defeated in space by Shoyo students, and he was held hostage, throwing Japan's government into disarray. So that's the political dynamics of Gintama's Japan as of the Rakuyo arc. I decided not to go into a great amount of detail or else the video would never end, and some of it was oversimplified, and a few things were skipped, but I wanted to just give a general overview of how Japan is forming within the Gintama universe. So I hope it was interesting. Before I end this video, I want to thank everyone who decided to watch my 100 subscriber stream. It was a lot of fun despite how scared I was of the game, and I'm planning to take the stream and cut it into a highlight video of the best bits of it. And in general, I'm super grateful for the support so far. 100 subscribers is not a large number by YouTube standards, but personally it makes me really happy to know that 106 people care enough about my content to subscribe and watch my videos, so I'm honored all the same, and I hope my videos continue to interest all of you. Thanks to everyone who's taken the time to comment and give me constructive criticism and feedback on my videos on both YouTube and Reddit. Once again, thank you and take care.